Hello, welcome to another episode of Gilded Shadows. Last time we left off, we were just sort of looking around our new apartment. So let's dive right in. There's little time for it between training and missions. I listened to the two of them bicker good naturedly. I knew they were probably trying to distract me, make me laugh, or at least Vanessa was. But as I stared down at my hands resting on the familiar placemats, I just couldn't rid myself of the out of place feeling. Maybe it would have been better for me to come here as a child. I never would have had time to question my place or be sad about it. I must have sighed louder than I realized because Vaughn and Ari immediately stopped talking and looked my way. You okay over there? I have no choice but to be okay. There's no shame in admitting this is overwhelming. How long can I keep feeling overwhelmed? Nothing is going to change because I sigh a few times, or cry, or scream my head off over all this. Maybe not, but you might feel better if you scream a little bit. I can go get Kale. He's good to scream at when you're having a bad day. So for anybody who doesn't remember, Kale is Caleb. I am so excited for his route on a total side note, but anyway. Perhaps not. He does tend to yell back. Vaughn got up and came to where I was standing, wrapping her arms around me. I squeezed my eyes shut and felt a lump grow in my throat as I leaned against her, grateful for the gesture. It's okay to be sad about this for as long as you need. I wish I could say everything in your life will go back to the way you want it to, but I can't. I can tell you it's going to be okay. It really is, somehow. This isn't what I planned. This isn't at all what I wanted to do with my life. I pulled away and ran my hands over my face, feeling bad they were having to hold my hand through all this. What were you studying? Perhaps perhaps there is something here at Endgame you can do that is in a related field. Really? I didn't think I'd get any say in what I'd be doing. Given your rank, it's unlikely you could avoid fieldwork entirely, but that doesn't mean you won't have a say at all. I don't like fighting. I don't like violence. None of us like those things, Morgan. Sometimes it just comes along with protecting people. I know that. I know. I don't want to make any sort of decisions about the future right now. I think it's better to not think too far ahead. I agree. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's wise to simply take each day as it comes. He's right. She slid her finger under my chin and made me look up at her before tucking my hair behind my ear. It was such a maternal gesture that it reminded me starkly of my mother. I had to swallow hard to keep from crying on the spot. I know you didn't want to be here, but sometimes it's not about where you want to be as much as where you're meant to be. Give us a chance. Sometimes the best things in life are the most unexpected ones. I smiled slightly. I knew she was right. I'll try. Good girl. And if you really need someone to yell at and don't want to risk Kale, I volunteer Ari. Vanessa. I know this is a slight subject change, but what about my parents? How are they? And my brothers? I still haven't been able to contact them. It would help a lot if I could. I don't know. I haven't kept track of that, but I'll look into it and at least get you an update. I'd really appreciate it. She gave me another very gentle squeeze. I'm sorry things turned out this way. So am I. But in the end, you're right. If it feels like everything is broken right now, then my only choice is to rebuild it into something new. That is the best way to look at it. That doesn't mean it's easy to see things that way. It's okay to be frustrated, and it's okay to want to yell at someone. Ah, there's also a training room with punching bags. That's a great stress relief. I'm sure she'll be spending plenty of time. Hang on, sorry, need to get into Ari's voice. I'm sure she'll be spending plenty of time there going forward. She may wish to find another way to get her stress out. Thank you, Ari, for shooting that down. That was helpful. Thank you both for staying with me for a while. Hey, don't mention it. And if you need anything, I'm just a few doors down. As am I. Not Bet you're good for anything but yelling at. I beg to differ. I just laughed as they started bickering again. We'll leave you alone for a little while if you want. I'm sure you want to get settled, check on your things, maybe rest a bit. Thank you. I'll stop back around dinner and take you down to the lounge. I can introduce you to Mara and some of the others if you want. I like that. I can bring this guy with me too, or I can just ditch him somewhere and come alone. Well, it's his choice. Then I too shall come by. Vanessa gave me another hug before they started for the door. I followed behind out of habit and watched them let themselves out. Don't forget to call me anytime you need anything. You got your net access back, right? Partially, yeah. I still couldn't contact outside their private network, but I could contact people within the organization and catch up on everything going on in the outside world with the last few days. The latter would probably offer distraction for a little while as well. Then we'll see you later. They stepped outside, and with that, I was alone again. I let out a long, frustrated groan. Retreating back to the sofa, I flopped down, throwing an arm over my eyes. Too much. It was all definitely too much. I stared at the ceiling above me. I should look around a little first, especially to check out the bedroom they mentioned before. I was, I was finally going to have my damn bath, even if it was days late. After soaking for at least an hour, I couldn't say. Maybe I'd read. Maybe I'd go for a walk and see more of the building, but that was for later. For now, I was just going to relax in a tub full of bubbles and try to forget everything for a while. Okay, chapter 3, Ari's route, Fairy Queen. It's interesting how much crossover there is between Changeling and this. Like, I like it. I definitely like it. So what should I expect at this meeting? It's mostly people you've already met. Everyone in the guard. It's nothing to be nervous about. It won't be a bunch of strangers, I promise. I was reading a little about Endgame last night. Oh? Well, I tried watching the news for a bit to see what was going on out there, but the news about Syrah was a little too much. Ah, yeah. That situation is tough. I can't say I don't understand the protests. They say the new mining quotas put in place by the UTG are ridiculous. Okay, so hang on, I'm just gonna click on this real quick. Okay, Syrah. I should be saying Syrah. Much of Syrah economy involves resource harvesting for the Triad. Though there are many resources available in Syrah and many places where various resources are being mined or gathered, many of these can be found on Arcalis as well. Two of the biggest resources that find themselves at the center of the controversy and political unrest are gallium and ismine. Ismine mining cannot be fully automated and requires miners to work directly with the substance, which is toxic to humans. The work conditions in many mines are hazardous, and the Triad often is lax in making sure workers are safe. High quotas, long work hours, and the dangerous conditions are at the center of much of the conflict on Syrah, as well as the lack of support for workers with chronic health issues related to their jobs. Okay, so it sounds like a lot of the controversies that we have, in the real world as far as mining goes. UTG, Unified Triad Government. Unified Triad Government refers to the ruling body that oversees the union between New Albion, Sirene, and Afra. Each nation has 4 representatives on this council. They are responsible for making joint decisions that affect any of the Triad's territories, treaties, or nations. I agree. It's sad to see things are turning violent again. It is, but I think it was inevitable. The dissidents there were just waiting for a reason to start calling for independence again. Syrah and its colonies have been in repeated conflicts with their parent nations in the Triad almost since the moon was first settled. They have experienced many of the same problems colonies have had throughout history. They believe they are being exploited for labor and materials without proper funding or supplies. They are not represented in the UTG and have repeatedly clashed with the government over the failure to meet the needs of the colonists. Much of the economy on Syrah revolves around resource mining. There are some important elements such as gallium and ismene that are harvested in high yields for use on Arcalis. But There are also numerous research facilities. It is, however, the treatment of the miners that is the focal point of much of the unrest. Many of the dissidents have been fighting for better work conditions for many years without success, which is why in recent decades there have been stronger and stronger pushes for independence from the triad. This movement has gained support and grown significantly to the point there have been repeated outbreaks repeated outbreaks of violence as more and more people are trying to push out the provisional government the triad has put in place. I need to take one drink real quick. My voice is going out a little. All right, one more maybe. Give me a sec. All right, sorry about that. She was right, of course, but it was scary the situation crumbled so fast. Things had been fine before all this, and a week later, Sita was on the verge of a revolution. I hope Oliver is okay, and Trent, wherever he is. Sorry, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one, Morgan. Trent is on my shit list. Like now and forever. Anyway, that's depressing talk. What were you reading about regarding Endgame? Well, I realized I had access to some internal files, so I thought it might be a good idea to do some research and learn what I can. Trying to read up on everyone and learn what makes us tick. I don't have access to any personal files, actually, but I found some information on organizational structure and things of that nature. There wasn't much about the Guard. I'm sure they want to be cautious about giving you access, given you are capable of teleporting out of here. Probably paranoid you'll take our secrets with you. Afraid I'll escape? Really? Have I demonstrated I'll try that? Well, you did. Well, in full control of my mental state. Her laugh echoed in the empty hall as we walked. Not like the king doesn't hightail it out of here if given even the slightest chance. That makes your king sound like a prisoner. Well, he's a special case. He's the only one we have, after all. Oh no! So is Magnus like, in the same situation that MC is, to where, they pretty much brought him in and didn't really give him a choice as far as whether or not to join? And I'm the only queen you have. That's true. But what happens if there are multiple queens or kings? I wondered that yesterday when reading. I saw something about first guard and second guard. Von scoffed. You people are so rare. I think this happened once in the entire history of Endgame. There is a second guard, but it's only 6 people since there are no additional king or queen ranks to fill the roles. What about the Morai? I saw something about them, but it was vague. Okay, I'm glad we're finally getting the background on this, because I've seen this word pop up many times, and I don't understand what it means. The Morai are a non-public group that functions as a source of advice for the Endgame Council. This group is made up of multiple, usually 3 or more bishops, who are especially adept at precognition. The Morai keep their eyes on future possible events that could spell trouble for Ocalis and Endgame as an organization. Using their foresight, the Morai help Endgame act on threats before they occur, or they prep ahead for threats that are on the horizon. So they're it sounds like they're sort of like a group of, seers? Like, people who tell the future and warn Endgame? However, the future is a tricky beast, and often inaction is a better path than action. The Morai are directly responsible for how often Endgame takes a conservative approach to its involvement in world events, as they can not only see what threats are looming, but also what Endgame's involvement may yield, for better or for worse. Though not everyone can appreciate what tragedies their guidance has helped our cause avoid, they continue to work quietly in the shadows to lead everyone towards a hopefully positive future. Huh. I mean, this just sounds like it's rife for, sort of loopholes and abuse. But I'll be interested to see what role they end up playing. Yeah, they're not a publicly known group. My older sister is one of them. Her precognition is way stronger than mine. Theokinesis. Any mind or sight-based psi ability. This includes precognition, the ability to see the future, postcognition, the ability to see into past events, psychometry, clairvoyance, and all similar abilities. Bishops tend to specialize in theokinetic skills, most notably precognition. Theokinetic abilities are some of the most mentally taxing abilities and can often result in dangerous mind bursts and sight fatigue. But beyond that, there are other mental traumas associated with seeing future and past events. Many theokinetic specialists are under extreme mental burden with the things they see and trying to pick out a correct path among the information. The emotional strain is significant, and it's not uncommon for these specialists in endgame to retire early or move into other divisions that preserve their own mental health. That's completely understandable. If they're seeing all these different possible futures and all of the disasters that could occur, how that might, be a little stressful. Especially since it sounds like with I think they said theokinetics, it's not clear, right? It's not as clear as you would think. It's more like they see bits and pieces and they have to put it together. So it's a group of precogs then. Basically, yeah. They monitor, well, anything major that might be on the horizon. That sounds extremely difficult, to say the least. You're not wrong. I mean, look at the stuff on Syrah. We were aware it would happen a little ahead of time, so we already had some relief teams in place before things got so bad. Even though Endgame doesn't get involved in political issues, we're just there to help civilians that might get caught up in it all. I doubt that. Anyway, the riots up there right now aren't pretty, and sometimes our guys step in to get people out of situations which have turned sour. Anyway, Endgame knew it was coming, and we let it happen. You know why? Because preventing it may have led to something even worse down the line? Exactly. Looking ahead is tricky business. The Morai can't only look at what situations might be brewing, they have to see beyond, at possible outcomes of our involvement. For instance, what if stopping this outbreak of violence led to a buildup of tension that resulted in a bigger outbreak of violence down the line? We can't ignore the far future for the sake of the near future. Can they really see that far ahead? Sometimes. And if they can't, sometimes we hold off intervening because we don't want our actions to lead to something even worse than what we know is ahead. I guess it makes sense. Better the devil you know, right? Because the future is never a single path. There's the path we're all on and all the other paths we can shift to. Every action we take builds those paths or shifts us onto new ones. And sometimes an action with a better short term outcome has a far worse long term outcome. Precognition seems like a really terrible responsibility. I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, that seems so stressful. And what do you do when you know something terrible is around the corner? But you also know intervening will cause something even worse? How do you choose who to save? Okay, so we can say I don't think I could sacrifice people knowingly. I'd have to pick the path that saves the most people, or you can't lose sight of the fact that the future always holds unknowns. Okay, let's see. Well, if that's your job and if you have sort of seen these possible futures, you don't really have the option of being like, I don't think I could sacrifice people knowingly. Because even if your choice is not to do anything, you're still sacrificing people, right? Because doing nothing is also a choice that's going to end up in some people dying in certain situations. I'd have to pick the path that saves the most people. I don't think it's always that simple, right? Um, or you can't lose sight of the fact that the future always holds unknowns. I like this one the best because I don't think it should be a numbers game either, right? I don't think it should be like, well, we're saving this number of people here, but that number of people there. And I was watching something in philosophy like the other day where they were talking about this sort of ripple effect. And I mean, because they can only see so far into the future, you're never actually going to know if what you're doing is saving the most lives anyways. Because what if saving the most lives 6 months down the line results in an event that leads to even more deaths 2 years down the line? Like, so you don't, the foresight is still limited. So I'm gonna go with the third one. I don't know the answer, but I think it's important to remember that no matter what you see, the future always holds unknowns. I mean, in a future of infinite possibilities, surely a small group of people can only see so much. See, that's exactly what I'm saying. Just because I know immediate action for a situation may lead to a worse outcome, is that a reason to not act? Surely there are other paths that we don't see, other paths with better outcomes. I'm no expert, but maybe it's better to take a risk on the unknown than make sacrifices based on what you think you know. And that's the other thing too, right? Um, there are so many infinite possibilities in terms of how you can respond to certain situations that it would be impossible to see all of them. You know, I guess that's one way of looking at it. The only thing I know is true is the Morai make a lot of hard decisions, and the council does as well. With the information, the more I give them. Those guys have it tough. Her voice sounded so sad when she said that. I guess she saw it firsthand with her sister being in the group and everything. I can't say I know exactly what it's like, but I feel like the day I was recruited, I had a moment like that. Oh, there was this moment I was at the cafe with Jack, and I suddenly had a powerful mental image of Caleb and Ari showing up. Something which felt so sure, so certain, I knew it would happen. And of course, they showed up right after, yeah? Yeah, definitely sounds like a premonition. Was there a time to warn Jack? Oh no! Don't bring this up, please. I still feel bad about that, even though he tried to shoot me. I probably could have. I didn't try. Why not? Because this is where I chose to be, I guess. When I weighed the options, it just seemed like the best one. What makes you think so? I gave her a slight smile. The devil you know. She lifted her chin and gave me an indignant look. I'm not a devil. Thank you very much. KO we can talk about, but I am definitely not a devil. Yeah, yep. I'm there with you. Although Vaughn, we still don't really know you that well, but you seem like good people. Look, Jack was too much of an unknown. He said he would lie to me, or he wouldn't lie to me, but even now, I don't know whether everything he told me was actually the truth. And see, that was my problem with Jack too. Like, he was very charming, and like you wanted to believe him, but the fact that he tried to shoot us right after we said we weren't coming with him does give me, some trust issues with the guy. And with the other people after me, I just wanted to be somewhere safe. The past 2 days have been so frustrating and overwhelming, I'd lost sight of the moment I made that decision, hadn't I? I'm glad you chose us, even if it might not be, or might not have been much of a choice to speak of. At the very least, I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't. Probably not anywhere good. Of course not. Wherever else you'd have ended up, I wouldn't be there. How could it be good? I laughed a little. That is true, I guess. In any case, I guess at the time it felt like Endgame was the more certain path. There's a lot I still don't know about this place, and a lot that it, m- sorry, and a lot about it I may find if I don't agree with. Let me try to read that one more time. I promise I can read. And a lot about it I may find I don't agree with. But I feel like I can at least believe in your cause. If I have to do something that wasn't my first choice, then I prefer it to be helping people. At least it's something I can be proud of. Seems like the logical way of looking at it. I wonder if her response would have been different if I had chosen the emotional trait for her, because the developer, um, they, I think Ash is how their name is pronounced for their YouTube handle, but they left a comment about that, about how based on your traits, the MC's responses will be slightly different, and it's making a note of the fact that she had a logical response. We walked a long way before we reached wherever we were going. We paused right outside an office in which I knew multiple people were waiting for us. Are you ready? There's nothing to be ready for. I'm dead certain whatever's behind that door can't be worse than being shot at or attacked in a dark alley. Fair enough. I love this background. This is so vivid. And the plants, I have a thing for plants. I have like 8 plants in my room. So, anyway, let me see how we're doing on time real quick. Okay, we've got a little more time. Vaughn had told me a little about Magnus Ulrich during dinner yesterday, but not much. Just that he was the same age as her and a king rank. He was considered the leader of Endgame's Espers. I mean, his name came up frequently in any news reports involving the group. Yeah, but he may be just like the face of it, and not have any real power. So you don't really know. And he often released statements about the organization's actions, but outside of that, he was pretty reclusive. I had seen his image, but never an actual interview. There was also a council involved in leadership decisions. I didn't know if it made Magnus more like a commander or the focus or a figurehead. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh my god, I read that wrong too. A commander of the forces or a figurehead. Give me 1 sec to take a drink. Either way, I was still vague on the exact command structure. The important thing was that he was the public face of Endgame. I followed behind her as she stepped into the office. Oh, so is this Magnus's office? It is. My gaze went straight to the man leaning against the desk. Tall, blonde, dressed in immaculate white, and annoyingly familiar. Oh, so this is the first time she really has her wits about her that she's seeing him after she ran into him on the street. That was Magnus Ulrich? In an instant, my mind went back at our first meeting, when he gave me a fake name, among other things. Wait a minute. They didn't have time to tell me who they were, to warn me, or to explain anything, but Magnus had time to sneak out of work to meet me a few minutes before I was kidnapped? Excuse me, apprehended. It's so nice to see you again, Morgan. A bright smile was on Magnus's face as he came towards me, stretching out both hands. I looked down at them, then back up at him without taking them. Is it? You're rather new here to already have that sort of attitude towards me. Magnus left my side and started around the desk to the large chair on the other side. Though you already know who I am. I'm Magnus Ulrich, head of Endgame. I want to extend the absolute warmest welcome to our little group. I know your induction was a little rocky, but it really is a relief to have you with us. Everyone here will be working closely with you, Morgan, but I'm sure you'll find your own guard most helpful in getting settled. Probably not all of them. I think she's referring to Caleb there, guys. I shot a quick glance Caleb's way. He was still scowling and nothing and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else than here. You were just thinking Caleb won't be much help, weren't you? I immediately snapped my gaze back to Magnus, heat flooding my face. No. I bet you were. Not like he's been around much the last few days anyway. I have other things to do than babysit the new kid. Excuse you. Apparently we are like, higher ranking than you at this point, Caleb, so keep the mouth shut. You're the one who snatched me off the street against my will. I don't think it's too much to ask to make yourself useful in helping me adapt here. Not that I particularly want to work with you, either. Someone else snorted loudly, then attempted to cover it up with a cough. I couldn't quite keep the slight smile off my face. Do you think we wanted to play the part of kidnappers? It was the damn bishops who insisted it was the best way. So if you want to be angry at someone, be angry at them. I was just the bloody errand boy. Oh my god. Okay, well then what's with the hostility, Caleb? I shot Vanessa a surprised look. She returned it with a sheepish smile. See, this is what I mean when I say we don't really know Vanessa either. I told you the future is tricky, right? It's so nice to see the new team getting along so well. And Magnus is just over here instigating. We're not. He ignored Caleb as he looked at me. Well, with that out of the way, were they always like this? Morgan, I'm sure you know we've been without a queen rank in our organization for nearly 10.5 years. Oh, he was jumping right in then, was he? I am aware, yes. Though I didn't know much about what happened to the previous queen rank. I was pretty young at the time and was focused on my studies. Well, not much information was released about it anyway, which is how we prefer to keep it. Nevertheless, the fact remains we've had a vacant spot on the guard for quite a long time. That's what I've heard. Though I'm not sure I understand why it's so necessary to shove me into the empty slot when I have no training or experience. Because that is the way our organization works. We have the council on one side, a group of non-espers who help guide our vision, and on this side, a balanced group of elites who span the ability spectrum from knight to bishop, rook to king, and queen. Just like a game of chess. It's a bit of a whimsical setup, isn't it? Oh my gosh, Magnus. This is the guy who clearly never takes anything seriously, which is interesting considering he's supposed to be the leader, you know? I actually have always wondered about the rank titles. Naming them after chess pieces has always seemed a little strange. Hey, I love it. I've never looked into the story behind it. I love that they ended up naming everything after chess pieces. Well, you could say the person who started this whole thing was a little eccentric, and he really loves chess. The man who started it. To be honest, I didn't know much about Endgame's creation. They had just always existed. It had been founded only a few decades after colonization, and that was already centuries ago. The Council helps keep things balanced by offering a perspective we don't always have as Espers, but the Guard leads and commands the rest of the agents. We're also a symbol, if you will, a symbol which has been incomplete for a long time. See, that's what I mean. I don't know why, but I get this feeling that Magnus is not here, willingly, which makes me extremely uncomfortable. I'll be honest, our council has been anxious about the lack of queen rank. As you know, they are the strongest Espers we are aware of. It's why they were so determined to ensure you didn't fall into the hands of anyone who might coerce you to abuse your abilities. That makes you sound like a weapon of mass destruction, doesn't it? My deepest apologies. He is so cheeky. Oh my gosh. Okay. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and stop here. Honestly, right now, the two that the two with the personalities I'm most interested in are Magnus and Caleb. Let me pull up the relationship chart real quick. We're doing pretty good with Ari. Look at that. We've got almost the bar half filled. Kaisa, I think that's how you say his name. We haven't even met. Jack, we met him for a while. We were getting along okay before he tried to shoot us, but Lance, I don't even know if his route is out yet. Ruben I did like, but I mean, we barely spent any time with him. And I still don't know Quill and you, I think. I haven't met them. But Magnus and Caleb are definitely the most interesting, and I feel like MC's personality, combined with theirs, is the sort of the best combination. Has the most chemistry. But yeah, for now we are going to go ahead and stop things here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.